At the company anniversary dinner, I saw something that changed everything. Sarah's ex-fiancé Mark was standing right next to her. They were looking at each other in a way that made my stomach drop. Everyone else at the party seemed to disappear as they stared into each other's eyes. I stood there at the entrance, unable to move. It had been 6 years since Mark left Sarah at the altar, but seeing them together like this made me realize he had never really left our lives. This moment broke something inside me. I turned around and walked out without saying a word to anyone. Later that night, Sarah sent me a text saying she might be out late with friends and not to wait up for her. I didn't wait, and I knew I never would again. Earlier at the party, I had watched them from across the room. Mark was looking at Sarah with obvious affection, and she was smiling back at him in a way I rarely saw. Sarah usually kept her emotions hidden, but with Mark, she seemed different. It hurt to see her like that. After we got married, people told me she never really got over Mark, even though he had left her at their wedding, making her the subject of gossip around town. She never seemed angry at him. I had never met Mark before, but his presence had always affected our marriage somehow. Sarah had been traveling a lot for work lately. Sometimes we would go weeks without really talking. When I called her, she would just text back that she was busy. I started to suspect Mark was involved somehow. Yesterday she came back from a business trip but didn't come home. This morning she stopped by just to change clothes. She put on an old shirt that was clearly expensive and well-made. Under the collar there was a small embroidered design. Now I understood. It was a shirt Mark had given her. By wearing his gift and standing with him at the party, she was making a statement to everyone there. I felt like a fool in front of all those people. I didn't confront Sarah about it. I decided it was better to leave with some dignity than to make a scene. But as I was leaving, I ran into Ryan, who was Mark's friend. Ryan stood in front of me with a smug expression. "Sarah's inside, and here you are running away. Feeling insecure?" he said. Ryan had always been Mark's follower, and seemed to enjoy bothering me. I tried to walk around him, but he followed me. "See, Mark and Sarah are a perfect match. You're out of your league," Ryan continued. "Sarah only married you because Mark got married to someone else. It didn't matter who she married." He looked me up and down. "Look at you. Sarah tried to turn you into a copy of Mark. Even your cologne smells like his. If I were you, I'd be embarrassed." I felt my hands shaking as I tried to control my emotions. I replied calmly, "You couldn't be me because you don't have a face like mine." Ryan raised his hand to hit me, but I caught his wrist and slapped him instead. "Instead of barking at me here, maybe you should get some plastic surgery. Maybe when Sarah is done with Mark, she'll give you a chance," I said, and walked away. A few steps later, Ryan threw a bunch of photos at me. "Sarah has been with Mark for months. You're just a joke," he yelled. The photos scattered on the ground. One landed near my face, showing Sarah and Mark kissing on a busy street in some foreign city. The background lights seemed dim compared to how bright they looked together. Everything around me seemed to fade. My emotions completely collapsed. My vision blurred for a moment, but I pulled myself together. Outside, it was raining and cold. Winter was harsh, and the rain felt like ice. At the entrance to our house, the security guard looked at me but didn't open the door right away. After a few seconds, my daughter Emma's face appeared on the security screen. "Dad," she said, "if you can't bring Mom back for my birthday, don't bother coming home." The cold rain was pouring down, feeling like knives. Emma stared at me without any warmth in her eyes. "Why do I have a dad that nobody likes? If I could choose, I wouldn't pick you." This was the final blow. I felt completely defeated. Through the rain, I told Emma, "I'll make your wish come true." I left the divorce papers I had prepared with the security guard. As I walked away, I heard Emma yelling, "Leave then! Grandpa and Grandma are coming to get me and take me to Mom." I didn't respond. She was only 5 years old, but smart for her age. Her teachers said she was gifted. She knew exactly what she was saying and doing. In her eyes, I was worthless. Her mother was her hero. All I could hear was the sound of the rain. Nobody knew how much my heart was breaking or how much I was crying inside. When I got to a hotel, the first thing I did was take a shower. I threw away clothes that looked like Mark's style and washed off the cologne that smelled like his. After the shower, I looked at my brown hair in the mirror for a long time. Then I went to a salon and got it dyed black and cut short. By the time I left the salon, the rain had stopped. I walked through the busy streets, thinking about that night when Sarah had asked me to marry her. She had been drunk and looked at me so sweetly. She leaned in close and whispered, "Would you want to marry me?" I asked her, "Do you even know who I am?" She smiled and pinched my cheek. "David, how could I not know you?" I looked into her eyes and asked, "How long have you known me?" She answered without hesitation, 10 years. At that moment, my heart jumped, my eyes filled with tears. Nobody could understand the joy I felt. A secret I had kept for 10 years was finally coming to light. I thought she felt the same way about me. But it turned out I was just a tool to make someone else jealous. I was just another version of Mark that she had created. Everything she gave me wasn't because she liked me. It was because her beloved Mark liked those things. A car pulled up to the curb with its lights shining on the street. Sarah got out of the driver's seat and opened the passenger door. Mark stepped out, but he didn't pay attention to Sarah. Instead, he opened the back door and pulled Emma out. Mark kissed Emma's cheek and smiled. "My daughter is so beautiful, just like her dad," he said. Sarah leaned against the car door, watching them casually. Her face had a relaxed, happy smile, like they were a perfect little family. Soon, Sarah's parents and grandparents arrived. They all laughed and chatted as they went into an expensive restaurant. Emma looked completely content, as if she had found a father she was happy with, one that the whole family approved of. She probably never imagined her wish would come true so quickly. I never thought I would have to witness this scene either. Nobody remembered me. Nobody cared where I was. Of course, if they cared about me, where would Mark fit in? So naturally, I should just disappear. Maybe my emotions had turned numb, because right then I felt nothing. I didn't keep watching them. I just kept walking forward, looking at new faces and places. Then my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Might be out late with friends. No need to wait for me." I looked at the message and laughed. I didn't reply. I didn't wait for her, and I wouldn't be waiting anymore. Behind me, the city was bright and full of excess. Ahead were the blurry lights of countless homes. I walked to the end of the street where the cold wind was blowing. I raised my hand to my face, feeling the chill hit me. I had been crying for a while. Late that night, Sarah came home. The room was dark with only a few lights from outside coming in. "David!" she called out. Her voice sounded drunk but also angry. The room stayed silent. Nobody answered. She frowned and stumbled to the bedroom. She started taking off her clothes but didn't bother with the light switch. She just leaned against the door frame, irritated. "Emma said you didn't want to celebrate her birthday with her and just left. What's that supposed to mean? Getting mad at a kid? Is this how you act as a father?" she said. Still no response. Annoyed, she flipped the light switch. When the light came on, Sarah looked at the bed with irritation. It was empty, the sheets neat without a wrinkle. Obviously, I hadn't come home. Her anger had nowhere to go. Her frustration boiled over. Sarah picked up her phone and called me, but got an automated message saying the number was busy. Busy? Who could he be talking to so late? She wondered. After a few more attempts with the same message, she realized I had blocked her number. In a rage, Sarah threw her phone and called a servant to question them. "Where is he?" He left this and didn't come back, the servant said, handing her some papers. Sarah looked at the papers. The words divorce agreement stared back at her. She laughed angrily, probably because she was so furious. She tore the papers to pieces. Leave, she told the servant, who backed away quickly. They had never seen Sarah so angry. Sarah sank onto the couch, massaging her temples. Divorce? In this world, I only had her and our daughter. Where could I possibly go? I couldn't survive on my own. Once I had acted out enough, I would come back. When the plane landed in the city, my brother James picked me up in a black car. In the car, I was silent, just staring out the window. James handed me a piece of strawberry cake. It tasted sweet, but I cried as I ate it. Did she hurt you? James asked. No, we've just chosen different paths, I replied. Should I teach her a lesson? James asked. No need. She was good to me once, I said. James said through gritted teeth, if she hadn't saved you from that horrible situation and given you a life of comfort and education, I wouldn't let her off so easily. I wiped my nose. We're done now. Let's not talk about her anymore. I was the son the Johnson family had lost over 20 years ago. I had been sold by human traffickers and ended up with an old woman. I was 16 at the time. The old woman saw how good-looking I was and started having bad intentions. First, she would just touch me inappropriately. Then she got bolder and tried to assault me. I begged her to let me go, crying, but she just kept taking off her clothes while looking at me disgustingly. I bought you to have fun. Did you think I spent money just to take care of you? She said. I struggled as hard as I could, grabbing anything I could to throw at her. The woman got furious and started hitting me with a belt. Those horrible words, her twisted behavior, and the hopeless pain all stayed in my mind. Every time I think about it, I shake. That's why when Sarah showed up, it was like seeing an angel. Sarah was 20 back then, so pure and beautiful. Initially, she wasn't going to take me with her, but my tears changed her mind. She looked down at me and said, I have a grandmother who lives alone in the countryside. Want to keep her company? I'll support your studies until you graduate from college. I nodded. As dawn broke, I followed her out of that horrible place, step by step. That was when she planted a seed in my heart. I ended up falling for her as the seed grew. I don't blame her for not loving me back. We were just a beautiful dream. When you wake up, it's time to part ways. After I left, Sarah didn't seem much affected. She went out with Mark and her friends like usual. But today was different. She didn't bring Mark along. As soon as she entered the room, she started smoking. She didn't say a word. Everyone exchanged glances, ready to tease her. That's when Sarah got a message on her phone. She reached for it immediately. Normally she hated interruptions and always kept her phone on silent. But now it was on loud, and she checked messages eagerly. Her friends began teasing. What's gotten into Sarah lately? Who knows? She's been glued to her phone like she's waiting for someone's message. Ever since Mark came back, she seems lost. It was just an advertisement. Sarah tossed the phone back on the table, clearly irritated. She poured herself a drink and downed it in one gulp. A friend nudged her. It's just because Mark's not here today, and you're already so worked up. Sarah gave a sideways glance, staying quiet. Heard you're leaving your husband to marry Mark. You're quite the romantic, another friend said. Sarah set her glass on the table. Annoyed, she replied, Who said I'm getting divorced? Surprised, a friend asked, Not thinking about divorce? What's up with you and Mark then? Just fooling around, Sarah said. Everyone laughed. I knew none of us here are hopeless romantics. 2 months passed, and I still hadn't come home. Just missing one person, but it felt so empty to Sarah. Even with all the servants around, she still had her 3 meals a day, but every morning she glanced at the area where I used to lay out her clothes for the next day. My presence in the house had completely faded. It was like I had never been a part of her life. Sarah looked at the huge wedding photo on the wall, feeling suffocated. Then there was a noise outside. Her heart skipped a beat as she looked toward the door. Mark walked in, smiling like always, but things had changed, and it wasn't the same. "Sarah, why are you here?" Mark asked. "My aunt asked me to go back to the old house with you for Grandma's birthday," Mark said. Sarah suddenly remembered that today was her grandmother's birthday. Mark, unable to hide his excitement, asked, "Where's my daughter Emma?" As he spoke, he headed upstairs, calling out Emma's name. Whenever Sarah's daughter was around, Mark always joked that she was his daughter. Sarah never corrected him, but today hearing him say it really got on her nerves. She snapped, "She's at the old house, not here." Mark froze on the steps. He stayed quiet for a long time before coming back down. In a hurt tone, he asked, "Sarah, are you upset with me?" Sarah frowned. "No." With that, she turned around. "You go to the old house first. Tell Grandma I have something urgent at work. I'll be there later." In the study, Sarah used software to call me. As she dialed, she took out a cigarette from the pack. Before she could light it, the call connected. She held the cigarette, listening intently to my voice. A strange happiness spread from her ear to her whole body, like a gentle stream soothing her heart. Sarah's lips curved slightly. At that moment, I was in my office typing code. I had studied computer science, and luckily my family's business was tech-based, so I joined the company. Hearing Sarah's voice felt like it was from a different lifetime. "David, it's Grandma's birthday today. I don't want to make a scene. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you," Sarah said. I paused for a moment and asked, "Sarah, did you sign the divorce papers?" Sarah's voice came through. "What? Find a time to get the divorce certificate." Sarah's smile disappeared instantly. She crushed the unlit cigarette with her fingers. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. "Do you really want a divorce?" "Yes," I replied. Sarah crushed the cigarette completely. "Why?" She didn't even know why I wanted a divorce. I looked out at the setting sun. For 2 months, Ryan had been sending me daily photos of Sarah and Mark together in my email. Sarah looked tall and graceful, clean and handsome. Mark always wore clothes that matched her colors. Both had a simple style, a beautiful couple that was easy on the eyes. I often remembered our time together. She didn't like me without makeup. She didn't like my black hair. She didn't like me wearing cheap clothes. Only now I understood. With a polished look and expensive clothes, I looked most like Mark. 16 years of loving turned out to be just a joke. Even now, deciding to leave still made me feel suffocated with sadness, but at least I realized it before it was too late. People have times when they're stubborn. Once you get past it, everything starts to feel pointless. As the sun set, the office became dim. In the glass reflection, I saw my black hair and my favorite outfit, looking fresh and new. Growing up, people always said I was good-looking. Even without makeup, people would turn to look at me on the street. Yet in front of Sarah, I never felt confident. She was always the one in control in our relationship, but I was done being the one beneath her. After a while, I calmly said, "Being with you is just pointless." "If I'm pointless to be with, who isn't?" she asked. "Not your concern," I replied. Sarah laughed out of anger. "David, are you really going to do this?" I chuckled too. "Sarah, do you think I'm making a fuss over nothing?" That made Sarah go silent. For so many years, I was always quietly there, giving without asking for anything in return. She never really paid attention to me or understood my feelings. For a moment, Sarah felt guilty. Her tone softened. "You don't just leave without saying a word. Give me a chance to explain." My voice was still calm. "You married me without telling me the reason. So when I leave you, you don't need to know why either." That bit of guilt she had was swept away by her frustration with me. "You should know I don't take being dumped lightly," she said. I scoffed. "When Mark dumped you, you didn't ask questions. What do you think, that I'm easy to bully? Sarah, if you won't divorce, I'll file for it. My lawyer will reach out tomorrow." "What about the kid? Don't you care about her?" she asked. She hit a nerve, but Emma wasn't my weakness anymore. I chuckled lightly. "Emma is your daughter. She has your blood and will become another you. I'm not a fan." With that, I hung up. It was an app call, so I couldn't block her, but it didn't matter. Truly letting go isn't about blocking someone. Sarah took off her headset and lit a cigarette. When the phone suddenly rang in the quiet room, she glanced at the caller ID. It was Mark. She blew out a cloud of smoke and ignored it. Her reflection in the window showed her gloomy face. My words kept ringing in her head in the smoky room, annoying her to no end. She stormed out to the old house. She never favored men, and I was no exception. The house was lively when Sarah arrived. Mark was playing joyfully with her daughter. Her parents and grandparents wore kind, friendly smiles. Mark always charmed people and had been favored by elders since childhood. Even now, Sarah's parents and grandparents liked him a lot. He and Sarah came from equally matched backgrounds. Even though Mark was divorced, he was still seen as a good match by the elders. Nobody cared where I was. Even my own daughter didn't ask, "Where's Dad?" "Emma is your daughter. She has your blood and will become another you. I'm not a fan." My words echoed in her ears again. Her brewing anger suddenly erupted. Sarah called sharply, "Emma, come here!" Emma, giggling in Mark's arms, didn't move. "Mom, come over here. Dad wants to tell you a secret." Sarah marched over with a cold face and pulled Emma out of Mark's arms. Mark quickly stood up. "Sarah, don't hurt my daughter." Sarah looked at him coldly. "When did she become your daughter?" She said icily to Emma next. "Don't you know who your dad is? Teachers say you're a genius, but you're really not smart." Mark was stunned. Recently, Sarah had become distant, clearly fed up with him. She didn't invite him for meals or fun with friends, and didn't respond to his calls or messages. He felt devalued by always chasing after her, but he couldn't stop himself from wanting to see her. Grandma's birthday was a good reason to see her, but her attitude caught him off guard. Mark felt anger rising. He expected her to try to please him, but she didn't. Everyone thought she would leave me and marry him if he came back. Even he believed that. When her daughter was born, he joked that it would be his daughter eventually. Sarah always laughed it off. Now she openly called him out in front of the family, implying she wouldn't marry him, and that Emma's dad was only me. Mark's heart sank as his smile faded. Getting up from the sofa, he asked, "Sarah, what do you mean?" Sarah met his gaze calmly. "Just reminding you not to cross the line. I am married." The elders exchanged puzzled looks. Sarah's grandfather tapped his cane disapprovingly, but she ignored him, staring back at Mark. "We're only friends," she said. Mark stepped back. "Sarah, you're such a jerk." Compared to Mark's anger, Sarah stayed calm. She didn't even care. She was just returning the favor. Mark trembled. So she hadn't forgotten his past runaway act. As rumors said, her flirting wasn't due to lingering feelings. It was just to make him taste what it's like to be abandoned and ridiculed. Mark suddenly laughed. How could he forget? She was never the forgiving type. Sarah was always the one who sought revenge without holding back. Mark clenched his hand, looking at Sarah coldly. "Sarah, you still do things without considering others' feelings. If David can stay with you, it just proves he's pathetic." With that, Mark walked away. Sarah's grandfather was so furious he almost ended up in the hospital. Her father grabbed a belt and hit Sarah, but Sarah didn't make a sound the whole time. Once she was covered in welts and the elders were satisfied, they stopped. Then she quietly said, "I won't get a divorce." Later that night, I was asleep when the phone rang. I groggily picked up. It was silent for a while before a voice spoke. "This is Mark." My eyes opened and my thoughts became clear. "What's up?" "I heard you're divorcing Sarah because of me. If I wanted to be with Sarah, I wouldn't have left her at the altar, and you wouldn't exist," Mark said. "Sure," I replied. "She liked me a lot and was a mess when I left her. She was drinking all day right before her wedding, asking if I really didn't want her. But that was years ago. We're different now. We're just friends." It was surprising how well Mark knew about Sarah and me. It was honestly laughable. His words seemed conciliatory, but were really a challenge. Anyone who hung around with Ryan couldn't be good news. I chuckled, not letting him off easy. "Mark, isn't that being a hypocrite? Couldn't Ryan do your dirty work this time, so you're here to attack me personally? Did Sarah dump you, so now you're scrambling?" "I've known Sarah for 16 years. I know a bit about her. She's not the type to hold long-term affection. Maybe she did like Mark a lot before, but I'm not sure about now. It seems more like unresolved desires. Mark isn't really worth becoming a town joke for. She won't choose to divorce me. If she did, the divorce papers would be in my hands by now." Mark paused for a long time, then sneered. "Got a sharp tongue. Sarah said you were gentle and weak, but you're just faking it." "No need to fake. I'm just showing it to you, that's all. And if you're so tough, then don't come back ever." I was still smiling. "Whether I come back or not, that's none of your business." With that, I hung up. It was late and quiet, but I couldn't fall back asleep. Moonlight scattered into the room, and memories drifted through my mind. It felt like I was back in the year I went with Sarah to her grandmother's house. Her grandmother adored me and always bought plenty of things for me. She could tell when I was feeling down and would cheer me up. Nobody had ever treated me like that. I often remember her comforting, gentle ways. Thinking about it always makes my eyes wet. But when I was 20, Grandma passed away. Even when she was dying, she held my hand tearfully and said, "David, I can't take care of you anymore. You've got to look after yourself. I worry most about you." It was my first taste of being someone's concern. The loss devastated me, but there was no fighting it. When she passed, she left everything in order. Her house was left to me. She said even if she wasn't around, it would always be my home. I lived there alone peacefully. I never thought I'd see Sarah again. I assumed our paths wouldn't cross. After all, we were worlds apart. A fairy tale wasn't happening to me. Then, during winter break in my junior year, while mourning Grandma, I met Sarah again. The day was bleak. As I got to the cemetery, it started to snow heavily. Sarah stood for a long time at Grandma's grave. She was in a terrible mood. I didn't understand her emotions then. It turns out that was the year Mark ran out on her. I had misunderstood, thinking it was a continuation of our story. She bought me things like Grandma did. She would even take me to get my hair styled. With us, it was like we were together, but not really. It felt like love, but not quite. That feeling both hurt and healed me. Sadness, sorrow, pain, hope. Everything she gave me, I drowned in it. So when she asked if I would marry her, I agreed. She didn't know I never planned on a lifelong commitment. I probably never really thought about the end, so the ending didn't break my heart too badly. As memories drifted away, all I was left with was a faint wistfulness. Nothing more. When my lawyer reached out to Sarah, Sarah was pretty shocked. Lisa, the top lawyer in the city, came personally to her just for a small divorce case. But Sarah wasn't easy to deal with either. Her own lawyer was top-tier material, too. Sarah handed everything over to her lawyer and instructed, "Drag it out as long as you can. I'm not really in a rush." The law firm's lawyer was surprised. It was the first time someone had told them not to worry about efficiency. After Lisa left, Sarah called her assistant. "Find out where David is. It's unusual for him to get Lisa involved." Sarah lit a cigarette, but barely took a couple of puffs before putting it out. I didn't like smoking. Lisa didn't smoke either. Outside the office's floor-to-ceiling window, the city was full of lights and sounds, full of extravagance. I didn't like luxury and hated party scenes, and Lisa, despite her wealthy background, kept a low profile and never went to entertainment venues. Lisa was clean living, stayed away from men, and yet respected them. Her stunning, almost perfect looks made her exactly my type. The more she thought about it, the more she felt a burning sensation in her chest. She had never felt so restless, trying to grasp something but unable to catch hold of anything. Over a month passed, and the assistant tried many ways, but still couldn't find me. Even the top people Sarah hired couldn't trace any of my tracks. For the first time, Sarah felt frustrated. She always thought she could find me if she wanted to. She never expected to come up empty-handed. During that month, there was New Year's Eve and other holidays, but not a word from me. No call. I didn't even send a greeting to Emma. During the holidays, outside snow was falling heavily and the wind was howling. Inside it was warm, but felt cold and lonely. Sarah looked around the house. She had bought everything in it herself. Even the wedding photos were taken according to her taste. There was nothing in the house that belonged to me. No trace of my presence anywhere. It hit her now. I really intended to leave her. She never thought I would. She thought I would regret it and come back to her. But now she knew she couldn't wait any longer. Sarah picked up her phone, glanced at the date, grabbed the car keys, and headed out the door. February was her grandmother's anniversary. I deliberately went a day later to avoid running into Sarah's family. Snowflakes were falling gently again, just like the year Grandma passed. It wasn't as cold. I stood in front of Grandma's tombstone for a long, long time. I remembered what she said before she left. David, don't have any illusions about Sarah. She's not right for you. Understand? She may have saved you, but don't put her on a pedestal. She's just an ordinary person with many flaws. She won't care about others or their feelings. She's not all that great. Saving you probably used up all the good in her. David, don't dive into suffering. The cold wind messed up my hair, and snow fell on my face, chilling it. Like a child who made a mistake, I felt like crying to Grandma. I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't listen. She wasn't my suffering. She was my belief. At the time, though the hardships outweighed the joys, I never regretted experiencing it with her. I didn't know how long I stood there. When I finally looked up, it was already dark. The snow had stopped, and above the full moon was bright like a big light. I turned and left, walking through the quiet night, reflecting on my past and my future. Thankfully, things weren't so bad. I had the chance to start over. I don't know how long I walked. When I looked up, I was at Grandma's old house, a place I had lived in for many years. It looked the same as before, unchanged. Someone kept it clean and well-maintained. Around me was silence, broken only by the cold wind. I typed in the code. It hadn't changed. The door opened. Inside, Sarah had been waiting, standing just behind the door. Hearing the noise, my heart raced. She shook her head, wondering why she was acting like a nervous teenager. I didn't expect to see Sarah right there when I opened the door. Startled, I turned to run without a second thought. But just as I was turning, Sarah grabbed me, pulled me inside, and shut the door behind us. Finally found you, Sarah said through gritted teeth. Let go, I snapped, but she didn't let go. Instead, she grabbed my chin and kissed me hard. Sarah always had someone else in her heart, yet sometimes she acted obsessed with me, especially in moments like this. Her kisses were wild. If it were before, I might have lost my mind over it. Now it just disgusted me. In a moment of anger, I slapped her hard across the face. I used all my strength, my hand stinging, leaving a red mark on her cheek. Sarah had never been hit by anyone before, especially not across the face. Her gaze darkened as she looked at me. My eyes burned, and tears streamed down unexpectedly. I turned to leave, reaching for the door, but Sarah pressed it shut. "You've hit me already. Still want to leave?" she said. I stood with my back to her, getting my emotions in check. All my feelings, my belief, was once centered around her, but in the end it was ridiculous, laughably absurd. "Sarah," I said, "I told you I wouldn't regret the divorce." Looking at the back of my head, Sarah asked, "Is it because of Mark?" "No," I replied irritably. Mark, no matter what, was just an outsider. I had realized clearly she would never love me, never care about me. A marriage like that really meant nothing. Once I thought all I needed to do was love her. Now I realize I was overestimating myself. Who loves without expecting anything in return? Life is short, yet it seems long, too. If you keep draining yourself, you turn into someone everyone hates. Sarah grabbed my wrist, stopping me from leaving. I did like him once, but that was in the past. There's nothing between us now. I shook her hand off, annoyed. Nothing? So what? When you were hanging out with him for months, did you ever think of me? When you flirted with him in public, did I cross your mind? After I left, would you think of me while you two went around everywhere together? You've had the best of both worlds, and now you say there's nothing. Sarah, I'm not your pet you can call and dismiss at will. I've owed you a debt of gratitude, and I always hoped you wouldn't become someone who disgusts me. Yet here we are." Sarah looked down at me, silent for a while. Her face darkened. I knew she was angry. Who wouldn't be upset if someone pointed out their ugliest side so ruthlessly? But nobody cared about her feelings. I chuckled. "Sarah, I don't want us to part ways as enemies. Get the divorce done quickly so we won't have to meet again." Sarah sneered. "Can't be convinced, huh? David, are you going to keep acting out?" Her trying to sweet-talk me was a joke. "Sarah, you don't honestly think I'm begging you for pity, do you?" I said, and walked away without even glancing back at her. The yard went silent again, with only the howling cold wind wrapping around my ears. The cold was bone-chilling. Sarah stood there for a long time, long enough that the wind numbed her completely. She had always been proud and never bowed to a man. When Mark left her at their wedding, she was upset but didn't fall apart. She never truly bowed her head. A few text messages sent without a care could leave Mark distressed. So when she got married, he reached out. Hearing his voice felt like victory to her. For a long time after that, Mark would text her now and then. The man who once looked down on her was now pathetic, thinking she was waiting for him like a dog. When her daughter was born, Mark claimed she was his child. She never challenged that, letting him drown in his fantasy only to shatter it later. That was the sweetest revenge. See, she never had deep feelings for Mark. His leaving her on their wedding day left her humiliated, the city's laughingstock. When had Sarah ever been insulted like that? Of course she would remember it. So when everyone thought she was pining for Mark and married me despite him, she kept silent. Enough rumors and people took them as truths. Even Mark believed them. So Mark got divorced and returned. The first thing after the divorce, she didn't disappoint him. At the company anniversary dinner, she wore a shirt he once gave her, embroidered with an M at the collar. That day, Mark, once the proud prince, was now throwing himself at her without a shred of dignity. He assumed she would divorce me and marry him. What a laughable assumption. Did he really think Sarah was that naive? She knew I saw it all that day, but she didn't care about my feelings. I would sort myself out eventually. Next time she saw me, I still appeared devoted. So when I mentioned divorce, she brushed it off. She kept going out publicly with Mark, making it seem like she absolutely needed him. Just when Mark believed she would divorce for him, she went cold. No more messages, no more meeting up. At first, he tried to maintain his pride. Then he lost it entirely, showing up at her home shamelessly, celebrating birthdays at her grandma's place. This was exactly what she wanted. To see someone who once walked all over her reduced to a groveling nobody. Once everything settled, she realized her husband had vanished. I hadn't come back as she expected. Even when she searched for me, I refused to return home. At this moment, she genuinely felt that I was successful in removing myself from her life for good. My words, sharp and piercing, hit her at her core. I understood her so well. That's why I didn't want her. Far from her grandma's old house, snow began to fall again. Life's unpredictable. Clear skies one moment, snowy the next. Despite the biting wind, I didn't feel the cold while I walked. People along the road moved in small groups. Some were soaking wet, others carried their own umbrellas, and some shared theirs. Some were somber, some indifferent, and others laughing. Every time I faced brutal weather, I wished Sarah would come over with an umbrella to shield me from the storm, sharing promises of love. But I always laughed at myself. She managed it once. Wanting her to hold it for life was foolish. Someone like her wouldn't spend time keeping a man dry. I paused, closing my eyes. Snowflakes hit my face, icy and wet. After a while, I wiped them off and stepped into a store to buy an umbrella. Holding it up for myself wasn't so hard after all. 3 days later, leaving work, I saw Emma at the office entrance. She's only 5, but carries herself like an adult. She awkwardly tilted her head in that unwilling-to-bow posture, a perfect match with her mother. Genes are strong. No matter how much I taught her, I couldn't overcome that indifferent gene. She's my child, and no father wouldn't love their child. I gave her all my love and all my devotion. But sadly, not every child loves their dad. Someone else gave her what she wanted, and she believed them, treating me with coldness and dislike. I tried not to hold it against her. After all, she's just a kid. But on her birthday, she said something unforgivable. After I left, she celebrated with the person she thought was closest. Mark was holding her, and she couldn't even remember her real dad. Everyone saw me as a joke, while she and her real father went along without a care. I looked down at her face, turned to the side. In a calm voice, I said, "You're not wrong. It's me. I shouldn't have had you. Then your dad wouldn't be me." She looked at me, clearly unsure and uneasy. I didn't bend down to comfort her. I just continued. "Now you can choose your dad. Whoever you think deserves to be your dad, just tell your mom. Your mom made you come here, so you probably wouldn't even think of me as your dad, would you? Honestly, having a daughter like you is disappointing." I started to walk away. But after 2 steps, Emma yelled frantically, "Dad, it wasn't Mom who made me come. I wanted to—" Her voice had a childlike sadness and vulnerability I hadn't seen in a long time. My heart ached, but I didn't look back. She could still be happy without me. I kept walking forward. Ahead, there was a black car parked on the side of the road. I didn't have to look to know Sarah was inside. She wouldn't leave a 5-year-old by herself. Seeing me leave without turning back, Sarah lost her composure and got out of the car. She angrily grabbed my arm. "David, Emma is only 5. How can you leave her like that?" I shook off her hand and looked at her coldly. "You know she's only 5. Then why let others come between us? Why does everyone talk badly about her dad in front of her? And you set the example. What right do you have to blame me? Isn't this the ending you all wanted?" When anger peaks, there's a strange calmness. I looked at Sarah and suddenly laughed. "I get your game. You want to use me to get back at Mark. Not divorcing me is your best weapon against him. Sarah, you refuse to give an inch. No wonder Mark doesn't want you." My words cut like knives. Sarah struggled to hold back her emotions. She couldn't seem as untouchable and proud as before. At this moment, she would rather hold her temper, hoping I would speak kindly instead of these confrontational, hurtful words. She knew she wasn't that obsessed with Mark. "David, is that all you think of me?" Sarah said. "I admit I wanted revenge against Mark, but he's not worth begging you to come back. You've always been my only man. The photos of me and Mark were taken on purpose by someone else." How ridiculous. I actually laughed. "So, I'm your only one? That's why you ignored and disrespected me, let your family bully me, and turned my daughter against me. I'm your only one, so you wore his shirt with his initial, made me a laughingstock in public. I'm your only one, yet you brought Mark and your whole family to give Emma a birthday and didn't see anything wrong." "Sarah, I have nothing more to say. Even if I'm your only one, it didn't stop you from hurting me. Talking about these things, I thought I would be indifferent. It turns out my heart still stings. I've suffered too much, and nobody knows, because those who hurt me never think they're wrong. Just like Sarah now. She believes coming to me again and again is already a favor, that I should cheerfully go back home with her. She's always been that proud." Sarah looked at me standing before her. I seemed both the same and completely different. "David," she said, lost, "I don't want to make excuses. I messed up. I was wrong. Can you give me another chance? Is that it for our years together?" She held my hand tight. "I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way." I tried to pull my hand away, but she wouldn't let go. I was ready to argue when a fist suddenly crashed into Sarah's face. She fell back several steps. After a moment, she steadied herself. Before she could see who hit her, James punched again. Sarah was knocked to the ground. James didn't hold back. Her mouth was bleeding as she struggled to get up. James moved to hit Sarah again, but a little figure blocked him. It all happened so fast. As I realized and rushed to stop James, his fist stopped just inches from Emma. He was furious, veins popping, and stood up straight. "Brat, where were you when your dad was getting hurt? You're quick to defend this worthless mom of yours. Guess you inherited nothing good. Your dad's right not to want you," James said. Emma's eyes turned red. "Who says my dad doesn't want me?" "Clearly your other dad is at home. Go find him with this mother of yours," James replied. Emma, mature for her age, was still just a child. James's words brought her to tears. She looked at me, all pitiful, like she hoped I would be on her side. But I wasn't. She had to realize that her actions and words have consequences. Instead of looking at Emma, I glanced at Sarah on the ground. My intention to divorce was firm. I hoped she would cooperate with the lawyer to get it done. I said my piece and was about to leave with James. From behind us, Sarah's mocking laughter echoed. "No wonder you don't want me anymore. You found someone new. David, your love is cheap." I stopped, but didn't look at her. Just as I was about to say something, James cut in. "Sarah, don't make me hit you again. No matter how cheap his love is, it's not for you." With that, James pulled me away quickly. He seemed angrier than me, and it was the first time someone stood up for me. That person happened to be my brother. It warmed my heart for no reason. I smiled and said, "Thanks, bro." James replied, "No need to thank me. I'm always your backup. You've got the whole company behind you. No one will dare bully you again." Sarah struggled to get up, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and watched James and me leave. Her eyes filled with anger, almost consuming her. She couldn't calm down. This uncontrolled emotion was driving her insane. "Mom, are you okay?" Emma asked. Karina looked at her coldly. "Useless. Couldn't even keep Dad." Emma lowered her head. "What are you going to do?" Sarah replied, "I don't want a divorce, but what can I do?" Emma said, "You don't deserve my dad. He's not happy with you. Just end it." There was a deeper meaning behind her words. Sarah looked at Emma. "Did you push your dad away on purpose?" Emma didn't respond. She just got into the car by herself. As she climbed in, tears fell from her young face. She didn't remember how many times she had woken up in the middle of the night to find her father silently crying. Since she had become aware, she had rarely seen him truly happy. His smiles often seemed resigned to his fate. He loved her, but he wasn't happy. So she became that last straw for the camel. She wanted her dad to live for himself, not for her or her mom. When they were set to announce my identity, a big party was planned in the city, inviting a lot of important people. No matter what, Sarah had saved me once. Our family needed to thank her for that. So I asked James to invite Mark and Ryan. As they arrived at the hotel, I got out of the car. Ryan saw me and, as usual, started bothering me. "Yo, isn't it David? All dressed up, huh? But no matter what, you can't change your loser fate. Can't believe I'd run into you here. Who's your new sugar mama now? That outfit's a limited edition. Which lady was desperate enough for you?" Ryan laughed hard, elbowing Mark. "Mark, see him trying to look all fancy? Isn't that something?" Mark rolled his eyes disdainfully. "Why waste words on someone who's been my stand-in for so long?" Looking at me, Mark said, "Pardon my frankness, but using youth and looks to snag women isn't a long-term plan. Guys should know their worth. Rich women don't care about you. You don't hold any value." I smiled, flicking my hair. "Thanks for thinking I still look young." Mark sneered. "Shameless!" Still smiling, I said, "Mark, you're right. Guys should indeed maintain their dignity. I'd like you both to see something, and I hope you'll live better after—" With that, I snapped my fingers. The huge screen above the hotel and all the advertising displays on the street changed their images. The screens showed Mark and Ryan's wild years, footage of their parties with women and men that was scandalous, almost like something out of an adult film. But that's not the worst part. What was truly chilling was how they would force people to undergo plastic surgery if they weren't attractive enough. They just laughed off broken or ruined lives. Many lost their lives, and their rich families had it swept under the rug. The families of their victims didn't settle. They beat them into submission. They would stomp on victims' relatives' heads, laughing wickedly. As the video played, Mark and Ryan's faces went from disdain to panic. Mark reacted first, lunging at me, but before he could touch me, James kicked him away. Ryan looked at Mark on the ground and cursed at me. "David, you piece of trash, you just wait!" "James, are you blind, standing up for this man?" Ryan yelled. James raised his hand. His bodyguards moved in, taping Ryan's and Mark's mouths shut. "You think you can insult our family's eldest son?" James said. Mark and Ryan looked terrified, like they were in a horror movie, but they had lost their chance to speak. A crowd had gathered, some recording, some watching the drama. In no time, this became a hot topic. What they had done was so outrageous it sparked public outrage. Many began throwing trash at them. I stood aside, watching indifferently as karma caught up with them. It wasn't long before the police took Mark and Ryan away. Their families' companies were thrown into the spotlight because of this. Those two big families were bound to be investigated. Few companies can withstand a thorough investigation, especially ones as corrupt as those. Besides, my family won't give them a chance to bounce back. The ending for Sarah and Mark's families is destined to be a mess. My world continues as usual. The chaos caused by Mark and Ryan was just a joke to entertain me, just like how they once saw me as a joke. No one's bothered by their embarrassment, just laughing at it. Amidst the fading lights, I saw Sarah. She wore a black business suit, as neat and sharp as ever. But I'm no longer the same me. Even though it's only been a few months, it feels like a century has passed. She approached, keeping some distance, quietly staring at me. Maybe she's surprised by the new me and doesn't know what to say. After a while, she lowered her eyes dejectedly. "You found your family. I'm happy for you." I looked at her frankly, calmly. "Sarah, Thank you for saving me from that horrible situation all those years ago. Even though things are broken now, I still hope you're well." Suddenly, Sarah felt a twinge in her heart. She couldn't quite describe what she was feeling at that moment. Stifling, painful, unforgettable. People always understand how deep love is through the pain of parting, but real separation leaves no room for a reunion. She had never felt this way before, but just as she realized it, she had to lose me. "David," there was a slight tremble in her voice. "I know I was a jerk before, ignoring your feelings. I've never truly loved anyone. Everyone thought I loved Mark, but actually—" I cut her off. "You don't love anyone. You only love yourself." Sarah froze, unable to argue. "Can't you give me another chance? I promise I'll change." I shook my head. "No need, Sarah. Let's end this on a good note. Don't make me think badly of you." I turned to leave. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, pulling me into a tight hug. Her grip was so strong I couldn't move. Before I could speak, she whispered in my ear, "I've loved you since I saved you. You planted a seed in my heart back then. It just took too long to grow. From now on, a disgusting person like me won't bother you anymore. No need for a lawsuit. I'll go with you to get the divorce papers." On the day Sarah and I got the divorce papers, all the elders showed up to apologize to me. They all hoped I wouldn't divorce Sarah. Sarah's mom took my hand and talked with me upstairs for a while. She took out their family heirloom for me. "David, rest assured. If Sarah dares pull any nonsense again, I'll make sure she regrets it. Ever since you left, Emma's been downcast. For the kid's sake, won't you give her another chance?" Looking at that invaluable heirloom, I didn't take it. It's only for their son-in-law. But before, she wouldn't give it to me. Now she's sweet-talking and offering me a bracelet, all because my identity as the Johnson son in the city is more prestigious than Mark's. It turns out power really does change people. I smiled a bit politely. "Auntie, leave this for a more suitable son-in-law." I stood up and went downstairs. Sarah stood at the stairway, looking up at me intently. Her hands were quietly clenched, her eyes full of hope. Our eyes met. My nose stung for a moment. Maybe she loves me, but we've never really been in love. I lowered my eyes, step by step, walking to her. "Let's go." "Where?" she asked. "Get the divorce papers." After the divorce, Sarah would always secretly keep an eye on me from a distance. She often wondered if that morning she hadn't worn the shirt with an M on it, if she had taken me to that party, if during Emma's birthday dinner she had remembered me, would our story have ended so abruptly? But life's a one-way ticket. No turning back. Everything with her was buried in that day's light rain. I never remarried or dated. I did well in my career field, met many new people. My life became colorful, but still no woman by my side. Her heart would often skip a beat. Maybe I still loved her. But just as soon as she thought that, it seemed ridiculous. I stayed single and never looked back at her. She could only imagine how low she ranked in my heart. Yet Sarah was still happy she was my only woman. But on a Valentine's Day 3 years later, I finally came out with a woman by my side, and that woman was Lisa. Sarah sat in her car, staring at us intently. Her hands tightly gripped the steering wheel, fingers turning white. We went to a bustling food street. Amidst the earthly delights, we chatted and exchanged glances. Sarah squeezed through the crowd, watching Lisa and me ahead. My smile was so bright and easygoing, my gaze so pure. That used to belong to her once upon a time. In the noise, my face grew large in her vision. Her heart began to ache. It was me being torn away completely from her world. That's what truly loving someone feels like. Even if it's heartbreak, you dare not disturb them for even a second. She followed us like a thief the entire way. We didn't even know she was there. Sarah stopped walking. The crowd soon swallowed my silhouette. She couldn't see me anymore. I had started a new life while she was still stuck in the mud of the past. Ahead was an ordinary life's romance. She could only turn around, disappearing into the endless glow of lights behind her.